Court is in session and calls number 329-506. The case is style of State of Texas versus Gaspar T. Velasquez. The court has been informed that Mr. Velasquez doesn't speak English, he speaks Spanish. And so Mr. Charles Rojas, who is his attorney, is going to interpret. Mr. Rojas, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Rojas, do you swear or affirm to interpret Spanish to English and English to Spanish to help you God?
I do.
Okay, you may put your hand down. Sir, is your full name Gaspar T. Velasquez?
Yes.
Mr. Velasquez, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Velasquez, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Okay. You may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Velasquez?
Good.
Mr. Velasquez, well, Mr. Rojas, how are you doing?
Doing well, Judge.
Mr. Rojas, do you waive a record in Mr. Velasquez's case?
We do, Your Honor.
Mr. Velasquez, I have before me an information that alleges that on or about December 20th of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, operating a motor vehicle in a public place, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of driving while intoxicated with an alcohol concentration level of 0.15 or more. Mr. Velasquez, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes.
And Mr. Velasquez, how do you plead? Not guilty, guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
Mr. Velasquez, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
Mr. Velasquez, I have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishment. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Okay, now, Mr. Might change to see that.
Oh, but the one, yeah.
Yes,
Should be made.
yeah. Mr. Velasquez, this offense is classified as a Class A misdemeanor. The range of punishment is confinement in jail for a term not to exceed 1 year, a fine not to exceed $4,000, or both such confinement and fine. Mr. Velasquez, do you understand the range of punishment?
Yes.
Mr. Velasquez, are you a US citizen?
No.
What country are you from?
Guatemala.
Guatemala. Oh, they're not on the list. Mr. Velasquez, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1. There's a paragraph at the bottom of this document that is titled Citizenship. And I will read it to you. It says, if you are not a US citizen, a plea of guilty or nolo contendere may result in your deportation, exclusion from admission to the country, or denial of naturalization under federal law. Mr. Velasquez, do you understand that?
Yes.
Are these your initials at the bottom of this paragraph?
Yes.
Did your attorney explain this paragraph to you?
Yes.
Okay. And did your attorney explain this paragraph to you in Spanish?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Velasquez, there are a set of initials on the second page of this document on a line next to a box that says check guilty. Or did you place your initials on this document?
Yes.
And on page 3 of the same document, there's a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes.
And on the next document, Mr. Velasquez, which is the trial court certification of the defendant's right of appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And is this your signature above the line that's titled defendant?
Yes.
There are 2 boxes that are checked at the top of this document. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right to appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes.
The second case, when the second box that's checked states that you are waiving your right to an appeal, which means you are giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Mr. Velasquez, I have another document here. This document is titled Discovery Certification. Do you recognize this document? Is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
Yes.
Mr. Velasquez, before you signed and initialed these documents that I've just mentioned, did your attorney, Mr. Rojas, go over these documents with you in Spanish?
Yes.
And did you understand everything that he went over?
Yes.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Ross, I don't know if are you waiving a record in this case?
We are.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1. State, you like to offer State's Exhibit number 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any
No
objections, Mr. Rojas?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection, State's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Mr. Rojas, you have advised and counseled Mr. Velasquez. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Velasquez, your attorney, Mr. Rojas, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes.
Mr. Velasquez, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea of guilty and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that plea bargain agreement?
90 days jail, probated over 1 year. It's a $800 fine and 20 hours community service. It's a DWI education course, drug and alcohol assessment, and ignition interlock.
Mr. Velasquez, the state is offering that you serve 90 days in the Jefferson County Jail, but you would not have to serve any time in the Jefferson County Jail because you'll be placed on probation for 1 year. During the 1-year probationary period, you'll be required to pay a fine of $800 and court costs of $442, which comes to a total of fine and court costs of $1,222. You will be required to pay a probation fee of $60 each month, a urinalysis fee of $15 each month. You will also be required to pay a court-appointed attorney's fee to Jefferson County in the amount of $250. And you'll be required to pay Jefferson County DWI education class and initial evaluation fee of $125 on the day of the plea. May I have the affidavit interest? Should a further evaluation be needed, you'll be required to pay an additional $50. Your total monthly installments, that is the amount that you will be required to pay each month while you're on probation, is $210. Mr. Velasquez, will you be able to pay the $210 each month?
Yes.
You'll also be required to perform 20 hours of community service. You'll be required to attend a DWI education class, and you'll be required to have a drug and alcohol assessment. You'll be required to install a DWI interlock device on any vehicle that you own or operate. And you will also be required to adhere to the other standard terms and conditions of your probation. Mr. Velasquez, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes.
Mr. Velasquez, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Velasquez, please stand on the X next to your attorney. You're gonna follow the directions of our clerk. And once you finish following the directions of our clerk, you'll be free to go, and you have a blessed day.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
You are. And Mr. Rojas, once you finish, you'll be free to go as well, and you have a blessed day.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, and the